TNA reached terms with Tito Ortiz, one of the most charismatic UFC fighters ever to be part of the May 15th Hard Justice pay-per-view. His role at the pay-per-view as a special referee was announced at the Impact tapings. Ortiz is currently in the midst of a contracts dispute with the UFC, as the two sides have been unable to come to terms with money. Ortiz apparently wanted $350,000 per fight. Ortiz has long been seen as a potential star in pro wrestling based on his boisterous personality, marketable look, gift of the gab, and athleticism, says the PW Torch. While, I like the way it's like, I don't co-sign that statement about Tito Ortiz. While Kevin Shamrock and Dan Severn worked as pro wrestlers before experiencing success in UFC, Ortiz would be the biggest name to move from UFC to pro wrestling for the first time, should he eventually actually get involved in wrestling an actual match, rather than just acting as an enforcer referee. He's a wrestling fan, he's visited WWE events, he was at WrestleMania 19 and marveled at Brock Lesnar's shooting star that almost killed him, and has expressed interest in getting into wrestling someday. This did extend to, he did an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel, which I did look for, but I couldn't find. Where he did plug Hard Justice, but then said the show was on Fox Sports. So you give it, then you take it away, Tito Ortiz.
Thanks, Jim.
Well, listen, you got TNA mentioned on Kimmel, so you a big Tito Ortiz fan, Liam?
No.
You co-sign his politics?
No. As a staunch communist, no.
Yeah, I do believe Tito Ortiz would be diametrically opposed to your communist position.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of Tito Ortiz as a performer?
In wrestling or as a fighter?
Both.
Like, compiled into one?
Well, the separate, but you could pile them into one if you like.
I mean, he was a dynamic fighter that helped shape the industry and was one of the first MMA stars in the US, you know, part of that whole crew of guys with Shamrock and Chuck Liddell. Like, it became part of the era that preceded your GSPs and your BJ Penns, which really started to break through another whole level before you would eventually get to your heavyweights, and then Lesnar kind of blew it all up. But, you know, like, I think, like, he would be a slam dunk MMA Hall of Fame guy, specifically a UFC Hall of Fame guy. I don't know if the MMA Hall of Fame would be slightly askew to it, but yeah, you know, gigantic star, influential figure, not a great fella.
Not at all.
As far as a talent in his industry, sort of someone you can't deny.
And in fairness to TNA, in 2005, he's a hot act.
Yeah, there's a reason he can actually debate contract status with UFC at this point.
It's a rare instance of TNA actually bringing in a guy who's maybe not quite at the peak of his star power at this stage, but close enough to it.
Yeah, it's not far off. This was like the era.
Because this is still pre-Ultimate Fighter, isn't it?
I believe so, because that's when it really blew up.
Yeah.
That was, Ultimate Fighter was the thing that, like, blew up UFC into the next level. And not only that, it was the savior of the company. Like, Ultimate Fighter was the thing that's, like, saved a UFC that was about to die.
I wish it never happened.
You know, you wanted to happen, because a lot of these MMA dudes would probably be pro wrestlers otherwise.
Probably be pretty good ones, though.
That is Garrett Kinney advocating for everything that Conor McGregor has ever done. His national hero.
So yeah, we'll talk more about Ortiz when we get into the shows themselves.